So for tonight, what you can see before me here, this is one of the sets that I built for our film. And I know there's kind of a glare here because of the light. I've got plastic wrap over it. But this is going to be the mother's house. And she has to come out of here, and there's going to be a scene where she walks across, and she's going to look up at this tree here. And this tree is where normally she would find apples. But as you can tell by the grass, everything is dry. And I guess the tree is dry as well, so there's no apples in this tree, and they're all shriveled up. So I don't have any apples sculpted in here. I've got a larger, what I've done is I've actually sculpted one of these branches really big, and I put a crow in the branch, and there's one apple left that's all shriveled up, and there's a worm inside of it, and there's a little scene between the worm and the crow, because the crow is hungry as well, and he's going to eat the last apple. So the mother then goes across past here, and she's going to go over a bridge, and she's going to see green pastures. There's going to be like a little river that runs in between here, like a little creek, and then a bridge that goes over. So what I need to do is, this is the sort of long distance shot where the first mother comes out of this door, and I don't have a door on here because I'm going to be animating that separate. So I have just black clay on the inside. So she'll come out, and she's going to walk across, like I said, right across to this tree and look up. And then there's going to be a close-up of her looking up, and then the next scene will be of the crow up here. So there's 3 shots there, and then what she needs to do is when she stops here, she has to look across that bridge, and she has to see that there's, you know, a larger tree, and there's lots of apples and lots of just everything is very nice and lush and growing and so forth. So there's the 2 contrasting sides. So I've got to figure out what I've done is well, you can't even hardly see that. But there's a piece of plexiglass here that I've cleaned up, and it's about the same width as this piece of plexiglass, maybe a little bit wider by like 1/4 of an inch or so, a little bit shorter. But I want to draw perhaps the end of this part over here of this set, and I want to put it on the beginning part of this, and then I want to have the little creek and then the green area here with the large apple tree sort of to the right. So that's my goal for tonight. And I don't have any drawings of this, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wing it, because really it's like a tree is not hard to sculpt, you know, it's not really that difficult. I may have some other stuff that goes behind here, like some hills and things that'll be in the distance, and I'm not really sure if I want to sculpt that or use Krita or Photoshop and paint the backgrounds in kind of like abstracts, so it's not going to be detailed. I don't want the background behind all this to have any kind of focus by the audience. So that's kind of where I'm at, and like I said, I don't know what it's all going to look like, but I want to have the lush tree be somewhere around the same height as the tree on this side. But there's going to be there's going to be branches that have leaves and all that. What else? And that's where, on the right side, once you go over the bridge, there will be all the small characters, the secondary characters and whatnot. Now, there's one scene that I've created, which is going to be the castle where the king comes out of. And this is the castle. And presumably these will be the houses in which all the residents live underneath the castle, which kind of, you know, foreshadows them, and he kind of rules over this little village down here. So the colors that I've used here, I might try to match on the scene to the right of this scene, just to have continuity. Other than that, I could actually alter this a little bit. I could have like a little road or something here, but maybe not. But anyway, this is kind of what I want to shoot for. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to put it off to the side. Hopefully it doesn't fall or anything. And here's my plexiglass. So I don't think I have a way to zoom out here. Let me just try to move this a bit. See if I can. I'll probably do something like this. Let's see. This gives us a slightly wider view. It's not in focus. There we are. There, so you can kind of see what I see now. And what do I have? I have a Sharpie, but I think I'm going to draw on the paper. And then that way I can slide stuff around. So let me get a piece of paper up here. Okay. All right. Move this over here as well. 1 second, everybody. Okay, and your pencil. Yeah, I'm not going to use a Sharpie. You can't erase a Sharpie. At least not on paper. Alright, so kind of thinking here. Hopefully this will get in focus for you guys. So the height of the brown parts on the other set are about this high. So this will be about, I'll have to extend that set out about here. And also my plan with this, once I do sculpt this side, is I'm going to be taking high quality photos of both these sets. And where the two join up, I am going to blend the two together using Photoshop. That's my goal. This camera really doesn't want to stay in focus. So we're going to have a little bridge. Oh, my cat's having a nightmare. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's like, alright. Well, anyways. Maybe it's my voice. So over here we're going to have, obviously it's got to be all green. However, I might have some smaller trees in here as well, but we need one large tree about right here. And so branches will be, I think it should be kind of a fat tree, you know, because that would be a good way to sort of symbolize. It's not really a word. Symbolically resemble affluence, you know. Affluence and fat people kind of go hand in hand, right? So maybe a fat tree. Gonna have some grass around it, like this, and just a couple of little. So underneath it, it would be something like that. Underneath the branches, sort of 3 large branches stemming off from one. If I can, oops. All right. So that's probably a bit hard for you guys to see, but once I start adding clay, you'll get a better picture as to what this looks like. So as for the bridge, you know, I think maybe just, let's see, well, this would be the water. Can I have some rocks in here, maybe? Maybe I should actually make sure the perspective looks good on that as well. So some smaller rocks towards the rear. And I think that in the background, you know, eventually I'll have some big hills. That would be behind what I sculpt today, so I'm not going to sculpt these hills. Like I say, I might use Photoshop for that, because I really want that to be more abstract. So I may like take my color picker in Photoshop and pick some of these colors out, get like an average or something of maybe like an average color of green or something, and then use that as the base for the background, and then maybe make it more or less splotches. And that would, if it's kind of blurry as well, somewhat blurry. For this shot, I guess it would be more in focus, but for the close-ups, I definitely want to take whatever I make in Photoshop here. I want this to be blurred, so you use like Gaussian blur. And so when you have close-ups of the characters, things look kind of... But I do want to add just a few little... I don't want this to be perfectly straight, that would be very nice. I didn't actually even go perfectly straight with the brown. So you can see here, there are some contours. There's nothing in nature is perfectly, like somebody took a ruler and drew everything, so. Oh, cool. Okay, you can see it. That's good. I'm always a little bit afraid how this broadcasts. So these will be where all the apples are. So, I'll have apples all throughout this tree. I'm kind of wondering if I should, in Photoshop, maybe I could take like some kind of brush and just give these like a glistening glow to them, so that they really kind of stick out like not like diamonds per se necessarily, but something, just to accent things and make it more pronounced. I'm thinking, like in my mind, I'm thinking of like a Ren and Stimpy episode where Ren would see something, and like John Kay used to draw something in focus with an abstract background with, like usually they have like a harp playing or something, like doo-doo-doo-doo, like it's calling the person that sees it. As for details here, I think I'm gonna make this kind of like a very simple stone bridge, and I don't want it to be. I want it to be simple. I don't want anything to distract from the two contrasting sides that will be right through the center here. What else can I say? So as for other trees, I'm thinking maybe I can have one or two, couple of trees, or maybe like bushes or something. I think bushes might be a good idea to have in here. It's kind of like here and there. What else could we have? Like I said, it has to be simple, but not exactly sparse. We don't want it to be So Weeby says that if it's stationary, you can have an alpha PNG with the highlights and add it to your composition layer. That's true. Yep. Do something like that. So, I think this is probably a good place to start. I think that so I'm gonna put this under my acrylic. Just make sure that the thickness is proper. Maybe just a little bit more right about here. This will be where the brown part is and ends. Okay. Whoops. Come on now. Get on there. Perfect. All right. Okay, so I need to replicate this here, which is, looks like I used 2 different browns. It's like a terracotta and like a brown color. So let me just move my light here so I can see my clay better. So we definitely got this color. That's too dark. And this color. Cool. Alright, so I still have some remaining clay. That's gonna help. So I do have some dirt and some various other colors on this clay from throwing it in a box of other colors, and evidently some cat hairs got in there, so I'm just gonna clean those off. A few stray hairs. It's another piece where there's some other color on there. Just gonna remove that. Okay. Let's see if I can. I guess there's no way for me to get rid of that glare. So what I've got some on my other set. I've got some lighter colors that kind of come up here. Lighter and then medium and then dark. And I guess that was to give the illusion of distance. Pretty sure that's what I had in mind. And this is the light color. Awesome. It's always nice when you can find what you need without searching. Alright, so I think what I did is I just sort of textured it like this. So I made kind of these are like grass fields in the background or something. Lots of dried out brush. So it seems like what I did is just kind of scribed it like that. So I'm going to stick those on the plexiglass. Make sure that everything is textured that way. And I tended to use the lines when I textured it a little bit closer together in the back as a illusion of forced perspective. So something along the lines like this. Well, actually I'm going to make that wider. So hopefully you guys are having a good week. I've been really super busy. Today I've been a little bit lazy. I've been working so hard these past few days that I was just like, ugh, I need to take a break. But it's all good. I'm really lucky actually to have a lot of work right now. Lots of work is a good thing. So I've been sculpting Cesar Romero from the Batman TV show. That's my current job. And it's going pretty good. So I'm doing it digitally to 3D print. And then when I 3D print it, I make a mold of it. And then, well, first I clean it up with clay. Use some traditional sculpting techniques, and then after that I make a mold, and then cast it in resin. And after that, it gets sent off for painting and stuff. So it's actually a really cool process. Hey, Randy. Yeah, unfortunately, nobody entered this time, which I think has to do with the time of year, because every year there's always kind of a dry spell around now. So I'm pretty sure that has something to do with it. School and all that being out, and a lot of people are going on vacations and everything, so. Let's see if I can get this a little bit lower. There we go. So you think we should stick with robot, Randy? Is that, you think that would be good? I mean, I like the topic too. I don't think it's a bad topic. And I know with Clay, or I was going to say Clay Mara, Tamara Me, who always has entered our challenges, I know that she's had issues with college right now and trying to stick to her courses, and making sure that she gets her work done for school. And I don't know what happened to Zakira. I don't know if she didn't like the challenges. I know she complained before she stopped making any entries. She said that some of the challenges seemed repetitive. So it's really hard to please everybody, and also to coordinate things, especially with school and stuff. That's difficult. So I don't really know the solution there. How to motivate people, but if things don't work out, it's all right too. I understand how real life is. I am so busy lately that I'm just kind of, it's pretty much nonstop for me right now. And that is not a complaint, but it's, I think if I had to make a challenge, my own stop motion in 5 weeks to do the 5-week challenges, it'd be pretty tough for me. And I'm really excited about this one that I'm working on. I really want to start getting into animating this and stuff, but it's a little bit hard to do stuff on the side, and plus I don't want to really take away from showing everybody how I do it and learning as well. But so Wee Beast, do you like the idea of robot also? Okay, that's pretty good. I appreciate the feedback. As long as you guys enjoy the idea, I think that's the best I can do is to just offer something that people find fun. And so who was it that won the last one? Was it Dirty Red, I guess? So with the fishing animation, the outdoor activities, which was really funny, but so as long as you guys enjoy the topic, and I think you're interested to make something, that's pretty much all I can do. The rest is up to you, though. Yeah, I wish I had a way to know what is the best length of time for our challenges, because I think for some, some people like it to be longer. I remember Nick Hilligas used to say that, because when it was 4 weeks, he said it was too short, and I lengthened it, and I think we probably have about the same number of participants over time. Sometimes we have just 1 or 2, and then sometimes we have 8 of them, 8 people. But that's usually around the winter months, I find. Okay, so you guys can see here what I've got going on. I've got kind of different colors of grass, and then I think I will create, let's see here. So I don't know if this forced perspective thing is going good here though. Let me see. So let me see on my other one. It looks like I have a dark strip in the center. So I'm going to use dark in the center here. I think that maybe dark, and then I'll put something sort of light in the middle here to break it up. So right about here is where the water starts. I could do something to animate this water through here as well. Some kind of a loop of some sort would be good. It's kind of like what I did with the other one. I kind of just have like an angled, like the grass kind of blew over or something. Let's see. So another strip here. I'm gonna make this one a little bit wider. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, Ron, what's going on? So Ron's back, and he says, just got done animating. Sorry I'm late. John Lemon watched last week's episode. Cool. That's awesome, you know. I hope they enjoyed it. Because the stuff that I'm doing here is exactly what I did at John Lemon Films. I made all this 2.5D kind of animation. So they would probably, you know, be like, oh yeah, that's what Mark did. We taught Mark how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to put this here. Yeah, I'm definitely grateful for that experience. You know, it was some of the greatest, the most fun I've ever had working was for John Lemon and Webster at the time. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So Ron, have you had input from Mike Rosinski? Is Mike Rosinski still part of the studio? I'm pretty sure he is, right? It's been a lot of years since I worked for him. I'm sure they've really changed. All right, so now I noticed that on my previous set I have some different textures going on, one of which are little dots, and I think I was trying to just like make it resemble dirt. So I'm going to take one of my tools. I'm going to put this on here. Take one of my tools and I'm going to texture this a little bit differently towards the bottom. Oh, that might be hard for you guys to see, but let's go like this. Let's see, so I've got my little tool. kind of go over it like that. And maybe here and there I'll do that on the bottom parts of these as well. Go like that. Okay. And I want to break this up a little bit, so I'm going to have a lighter strip at the bottom. So Ron says, the stuff I'm animating for him now is simple, but I found ways to make it fun and interesting. Cool. I'm really curious. I can't wait to see, whatever it ends up being when you can release it. I can't wait to see. I think, I know they're probably really happy with your work, because, and it's really hard to find people that'll actually make stuff in stop motion these days, as good as Ron does. But so Ron says that Mike changed one of the things I planned to animate today. I've only shot tests so far, and I need to animate about 90 seconds in the next month, so we need to stop changing things now. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure he'll understand, if you mention that. Yeah, there's always deadlines with stop motion. That can make it tough. Anytime I've ever worked in commercials, it's always been like that. Long hours. Let's see here. So I'm gonna use this medium color here again. Whoops, I got some blue in there. Take that out. Hey, Janet. Welcome. So we're working again on this time on our set, Janet. So if since you're coming in late, what we decided is to I'm sort of extending this set, which has a lot of grass, dried dead grass, and I'm extending this part out. So I'm not attaching it to the set that I just showed you, but I'm attaching it in Photoshop. I'm gonna connect the two on this side. So we're gonna have this tree here and a bridge, and this is what separates the two lands. So there's gonna be like a little creek or river that goes underneath this bridge, and I'm thinking of doing some sort of animation cycle for the water here. And I'll probably use, what is that again? Moho to do that. Moho, I think it's Moho 12 or something. Seems like a really cool program. Like I said, I have not used it to animate yet. So I've seen tutorials on how it's done, and it seems pretty simple and straightforward. But it's going to be a learning process for me. So Ron says, I made some pretty neat props for this thing, one of which will go to the client when it's done, but I'll cast more for myself. Mini Mylar balloons. Oh. I remember, John, they used to have contracts for like Pacific Bell, I think it was, and different phone companies that were here and there, as well as, where was that one? There was I think they did something for the Yellow Pages, was it? And a lot of different odd jobs. And there was the Henry Cycle character. It's like Henry and then recycle put together, Henry Cycle. I'm not sure if that's still something that they use, but that was a neat character. And Tom Smith or John Smith? I think it's Tom Smith. Uh, so when I worked there, I think I've told this story before, but Mike Rosinski had me make this armature, which used they used some different parts that were from an older Henry Cycle puppet, and then I had to make new parts. So I had like these square brass tubes, and so the brass tubes were you would insert your lead wire inside these brass tubes, and from there you could trying to think what I should do here. I need to cover this up somehow. I think I know what I'm going to do. But anyways, so we had these square brass tubes, and I had to insert round lead wire into the brass tube and glue it in place with a very hot glue gun. So I glued it into the armature, and the armature I completed, and it was great. It looked perfect, but when Tom animated it, the round wire that went into the square tubing would twist and spin. So he taught me how to, you take a hammer and you sort of flatten the ends of the wire that go into the square tube, and it locks it in place. So even if you have glue or epoxy in there, it's like an added measure of locking power, And so he had to take apart the whole entire puppet that I created and re-glue the parts and everything. And I mean, he was a pro, so for him it was probably like no big deal. But I was kind of embarrassed that I worked so hard on that puppet, and he had to take it apart. But I learned in the process. I learned what not to do. And of course, at the time, I was still really new to stop motion, so I didn't really have a lot of people that taught me, how things were done, and I was a newbie. There's always things to learn, that's for sure. Always things to learn. So this, I think, is pretty good. Now, I want to add a few little individual blades of grass on here to detail this out a little bit, just to make sure it looks, not half-assed, I guess you could say. Wow, I can't believe it's been 42 minutes already. This took me 42 minutes. Man, time is flying. Time is going too fast. Let's see here. So, actually, I think I'll add some here. Try to find a good place. Saran says, my new favorite thing in the world is Molotow chrome markers. They give you the perfect chrome, and you can use the ink in an airbrush if you pry the marker open. That's interesting. Oh, that's neat. So Ron is saying that it's like a corporate gift of thank yous to different departments in a corporation. Cool. And Ron says, I've always notched the wire that goes into a tube before gluing it in. Now you're telling me, Ron, after all these years? Okay, I blame Ron for not telling me when I was born that trick, so that when I went to John Lemon Films, I didn't know it. But let's see. It's kind of warm today. It was like 90 something degrees out, so my clay is a little bit soft. I do want to get these little details in, because people might pause the video and say, how did he do that? I'll add some little round blobs and stuff too. So Randy says, now that is a cool company. I did a short thing for the Geological Society of America that was just a little bit of fun for them for their 125th anniversary. Wow. That's neat. "125th anniversary." Actually, I think I remember you showing that video, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. And Rod says, learn and invent. Today I invented animated soapy water using cellophane from a dry cleaning bag and bubble wrap. Huh. Cellophane and bubble wrap. That's pretty cool. And Janet says, Mark, do you have sometimes audience from Europe like you? Yeah, sometimes people pop in from Europe. But the problem is that, in Europe, the time zone is so vastly different. I think it's 8 hours behind right now in Europe. I think so we're at GMT -6. The UK is GMT 0, so that's a 6-hour difference, I think. So and if it's 8 o'clock p.m. I don't know if it's 1 in the morning there or if it's 1 in the afternoon. It must be 1 in the morning. But anyway, yeah, sometimes they come in. I mean, Tamarami is from, where did she move to? She moved to, I was going to say New Zealand or Switzerland. I can't remember now. She always watches these videos. Like if you pop in and look at the comments the next day, she usually says hello, or comments about the topic, So it's hard for people to really watch live when you're in Europe, just because of the time zone. So anyway, here I'm just adding some more details, and I'll give you guys a close up here in just a second when I just add a few more blades of grass, and then you can see what this looks like. Remove this. I don't like that. And I'm going to add some texture there, I think, as well. Add some more of this. Time is it? So I think I might go over my time today just to get more done on this set, because why not, right? Okay, now I'm just gonna leave this side part that way. So let me show you guys what I got going on. So I know that it seems pretty far away from the camera. But this is kind of what it looks like. So we've got sort of like grass texture. And it's dry. And then here's where the stream will be. So I got this kind of hollow. And I might leave this blank. And I may put something either behind it, so when I remove the plexiglass or remove the paper, you can see through the plexiglass. And I can make the cycle of it wider than this. And I can also composite that later on using my computer, some programs, but I think that will make do. And so the next question is what color to make the grass over here. And so, like I said before, I've got this one set that I built where I've got all these colors. So I didn't really go with one color here. I just kind of mixed it up. And you know, I ended up getting a lot more of this Avalon clay, which is great. And the colors are nice. But this is the color, the primary color that I used was this Van Aken clay. So I'm going to have to go with this. And I think what I'll do is I'll just apply it to this area. And I think that I want it to be kind of, I don't want it to be as textured as the dry grass. I want it to be a little bit less textured than that. I want it to seem like it's been kept very clean and neat. Again, because of trying to make the contrast between the two halves. So we're going to open this up. If I can. So Dad says it's 3 a.m. where she is. Yeah, and you're in Poland, so you know it's definitely hard for people. Most people are sleeping. Now this is some old clay here. This has got to be a minimum of 5 years old. So this clay has, all the components have somewhat settled and separated, and you can see here I could sort of scoop out a giant chunk of just greasy, oily stuff. So I'm going to have to keep my hands kind of clean and not spread all these colors to the other side of my stead or anything like that. So I'm going to put this in the garbage. Oops. All right, now so what I need to do is break off some chunks, cut out some chunks from this block so I can shape it properly. And I'm just going to use my tool and just kind of scrape a big piece off. Oops. It's like the plastic wrap became statically charged. It's literally magnetized to the clay. Alright, get off there. Piece of plastic. So the oily stuff, you know, I can mix it into the clay or not. I'm kind of lazy. I'm just going to take it and scrape it off and get rid of it on this paper towel because I don't really need this chunk of clay to be super flexible or anything. If this were going to be a character I animate, I would definitely mix that back into the clay. And the best way to do it is mechanically. Like I wouldn't want to do that using heat if possible, because that will sometimes separate things even worse. I'm a proponent for mixing up colors, you know, using heat and with a double boiler, but my experience with this kind of clay is that sometimes you do that and the clay becomes crumbly. And I know that Don Carlson kind of explained that to me from a chemical standpoint. So a lot of the chains of fatty acids and things and the oils and all of that tend to break down sometimes, and if the chain becomes shorter, any sort of flexibility in clay like this, so as I bend it, you can see that if I do it a lot of times, you will get cracking in the clay. See those cracks? So that's where the chains of molecules break apart. So sometimes heating it will break those chains apart even further, so when you bend the clay, it tends not to flex. And that can be a big problem for animators if you're going to animate a clay puppet specifically. So if you're making an arm or a leg, or if you make fingers that move a lot, you have to bend them back and forth often, that can be, you'll be re-sculpting your hands over and over. So this clay here, like I said, it's really old, and I mean it's super mushy. Super mushy. I'm gonna have to wash my hands in dish detergent after this. So Randy is asking, Ron, did you pop the bubble wrap while animating to pop the soapy bubbles? And Janet says she's like a vampire. And Ron says, I do want bubbles to pop, but you'd never notice if I just snapped them, as tempting as that is. But I put on extra bubbles on top and take them out for a pop. Ah, that's pretty smart. And Randy says that sounds like it would work great. And Randy says Wallace and Gromit washed a window in one scene. Aardman used tiny glass beads of different sizes mixed into a translucent clay, and they would remove many beads throughout the shots to show it dissipating. Yeah, my friend Webster gave me some of that formula from Aardman, the bubble formula, and he made a big batch of it, and so he put some in like a little tin and sent it to me. And yeah, they use little glass beads, and I think you can use like little Delrin balls, like the smallest kinds. We're talking like 1 and 2 millimeter size. And I think the thing that they used was sticky wax as sort of the binder to hold it all together. Was like sticky wax, and maybe some Vaseline or something like that to make it sort of less hard. I'm not sure about the Vaseline, but I think there's something else in there. Maybe it's like mineral oil. Oops. Okay, so how am I going to do this? So I've got our colors here. Now I'm thinking I need to mix up some darker versions of this green clay, at least slightly darker. I've got slightly lighter, I've got slightly darker. This is actually a really good color right here. I like this one. In fact, I kind of wish that I sculpted the original set this color. That's a really nice green. Maybe I could use this for the bushes. Yeah. I'm somewhat regretting the colors I used here. I really like this green. Well, that's okay. Maybe in Photoshop I could do something too. This will be for the bushes and maybe some of the grass. And to darken this green clay, do I have any dark green in here? Got some. Oh, I think this is the dark green that I used, so this is good. I can use this to sort of intersperse it throughout here. Dark, the light. Okay. Yeah, Aardman has done some amazing shots. One of the best clay animation companies out there. And they don't really use clay for everything, but now they use a lot of silicone and things that look like clay, which is pretty cool. I mean, they're sort of staying true to their roots, I guess. I don't really know how they've done it for so many years, you know? They're just... always working on some project at that place. Oops. Alright. So here I'm just kind of sticking the clay down. Gonna get that horizon line in the back. This will be what I build upon. It does not take a lot of clay to do this. So if you guys are trying to make a film like this, it doesn't require tons of it. Just pretty much your primary colors, you know, which you can mix up, make your own new colors if you need to. And lots of patience. Lots and lots of patience, which you really can't buy. And there are going to be close-ups of this area of the set. So whatever I do here, I may end up sculpting in, you know, a larger version of this set for forced perspective. So, you know, for the far shots, we'll use this, but for close-ups, things may become slightly more detailed in the foreground. So that's something that I gotta think about. I do have rough storyboards of all this stuff, so I'm gonna have to refer to that. There's one scene where they build a fence around the tree, and yeah, I know it's a spoiler, but they all get together and kill the mother character. But don't worry, she doesn't really die. But there has to be like a little tombstone and stuff like that. And then I had to make a set where she digs underneath the fence to get the apples. And that's part of the plot, where she does not die because she escapes through that hole that she dug. But it's one of those moments where you're like, is she alive? Is she dead? What happened? Alright, so this rear part of the set, I'll have grass that kind of looks like it's tall. And then everything in front of this, I want to have a more dotted appearance, like polka dots. So it's almost like they've been taking a lawnmower and keeping everything nice and clean. Because in the rich neighborhood, they do that. And in this back part, I'm just going to add maybe a few strips of lighter colored clay. I don't want this to be perfectly uniform, so maybe just a little bit of this here and there. Can add some like this, and then work that into place. A little bit darker. Maybe where the tree is, like this. Ryan Rest is saying, does anyone remember Truckers? I don't remember. Was that a stop motion film? Truckers. Is that there's like a Robot Chicken series where they have characters that drive trucks. I saw that on Netflix a while back. Ah, okay. Trying to think of what that is. Is that you got who made that film? Truckers. And Randy says I'll have to look that up. Not sure what it is. Sounds familiar, but I'm not sure either. All right, so I got some varying colors in here in the back part. Sort of background layer. And I'm gonna open up some of this Avalon too. I'm gonna get this color in some parts for the heck of it. Some little dots here and there. Only to be covered up. Possibly, but it's alright. Don't really know what these are. Maybe flowers or seeds or something that are just in the grass. Trying to make it somewhat interesting. Okay. So the bridge will kind of come up over these two parts, and so I'll use like some forced perspective on that. Maybe I could have like a bit of a shadow underneath. I'll have to play around with that when I get to it. I'm putting details where the tree is, so I shouldn't do that. Okay. And so maybe just one little bit of darker on this side, and then start on the mid-ground layer. So Ron says it was a European short film, aliens on a ship with a robot out of control. It was awesome, but I've never been able to find it again and can't remember its name. Okay. Like a sci-fi kind of thing? Let's see. Which color should I use for the foreground? This might be a good color to use, actually. Well, try something here. Just use the same color and see what this looks like. Yeah, I think it needs to be slightly different. So, it's the best color. Also got this darker stuff too. Huh. I'm going to take some of this yellow and mix it in, actually. I don't want it to be too different from that, but I want it to be a slight bit lighter. I have to mix a bit more of that because that's not enough. So I can do this. So Ron says it had a very Star Wars alien style to the look, impressively well-made puppets and animation. Shame I can't track it down. I've tried many times. Maybe it was going through film festivals. Sometimes a lot of animators, what they'll do is they'll post stuff online and then take it down because festivals don't like it to be, sent out for free because nobody sees the festival, right? So maybe that's partly why. Alright, so I think this is pretty good here. I've got this clay mixed up, slightly lighter, and I don't have it mixed together so it's completely consistent. There's a lot of blobs of various colors in it. So we got some yellow and some green, and that's what I want. I don't want to have a lot of... I don't want this to be so perfect because it's outside, it's grass. So again, I don't want to have a ton of texture, but I do want to have it, where there is some texture. I'm going to go more with dots as opposed to blades of grass. And will that be a good idea or a bad idea? That's... I don't really know. But if it doesn't look good, we can change it. So I won't really stick it down too well. It's going to be a little bit loose on the surface. And then, depending on what I think, my lighting will be somewhat like this as well. So it might look pretty good. So I'll have to be flattened out a bit though. Whoops, sorry about that. It's not an earthquake. Ah, okay. So Ryan found the first few minutes. Cool. I'm gonna have to check out these comments after the show and then maybe check that out myself too. Oops. All right. So the contrast between these two parts are going to be more or less by the difference of texture that I'm about to add to these. Janet is asking purple mom or the Asian dies. Well, the purple mom. The purple mom lives in the house across the creek or stream, whatever it is. So she has the little kids in there and goes off to get food. kind of define these edges a little bit better. Get some tool marks in here. Make it look sculpted. So it doesn't just look like it's been plopped in place, which that's how it was, right? Give it some more character. And my next layer, I don't want it to have all these little hills and mounds and stuff. I definitely want to have it kind of flat again. So I may just interspace layers like this and then long flat layers after that. I think that would be a nice pattern. Get some facets from my tool, as they call it. I really can't do this with digital. You know, this is why I kind of still like the way clay works, behaves, and looks. Because to do this in digital takes a lot more effort. You can do it, but it's not going to be quite the same. Alright, so we got some texture. So it looks sculpted. And then, like I said, I want to add some little dots everywhere. So this is somewhat more abstract. It's not literally dots of grass or blades of grass or rocks. It's just kind of, hopefully the imagination of everybody who watches it will kind of fill in the blanks. So let me move stuff around and I'll show you guys a close-up of what it looks like when I'm doing this, because like I said, I know it's pretty far from the camera. So let me move this around, and then so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of going in with my tool and just kind of, so it kind of gives it a shadowy effect. So you can sort of add more towards the base and then have less as it goes up. That's how it looks. You can sort of like make harder depressions and get larger texture towards the the near areas to the camera, which although it's not really nearer to the camera, it's just an illusion of it. So kind of do that here and there. All right. So Janet says you saw E3, and I did not pay attention. I didn't get into it. Like I said, I've been pretty busy lately to watch a lot of videos and stuff. I get into some of the news. I read news articles and news videos to stay informed. but I don't really, I'm pretty specific of what I like to read and watch. I saw some of my friends, they shared videos from E3, of new games coming out and this and that, which is cool. Yeah, are there any video games you guys like to play right now, or? Okay. What time is it? All right, let's get another layer or another row in the front here, and then we'll call it a quits for tonight. So I'm thinking this is forced perspective, so I'm going to kind of come in low like this. And I want this to be fairly straight across. I don't want it to be as wavy as that layer. So I'm going to take, let's see here. Let's see, maybe some darker, lighter, or what? It could go slightly lighter, actually. So I'm going to take some more yellow. There we go. Mix these two together. Ah, okay, so last weekend. So Randy says, I don't allow myself to play video games at home. Have never had a system. And Ryan says I stopped at Sega Genesis. Yeah, my son has an Xbox. We bought him one. He's 9, so he's playing a lot of different games on there. But his favorite right now is Minecraft. That's sort of his. He loves that game, which I think I've probably mentioned about 1,000,000 times already on the show. But yeah, I have a VR system, so I play some games on there. I like Elven Assassin, where you shoot orcs. You have a bow and arrow, and then you play with 4 other players. And then what you do is you have to kill orcs before they get to the castle door and kill all the villagers. So they just kind of walk in waves. It's like a wave shooter kind of thing, I think they call it. And I have a few friends that play it as well, so we play together. And my brother-in-law also plays. He's got a Oculus Rift. And virtual reality is really cool. I've sculpted in there. I've sculpted in Oculus Medium, which is a sculpting program, and there's some Google Blocks, and there's a lot of pretty cool art programs. And art in virtual reality it's kind of a fascinating thing, to be honest. What you can do, and the experience it gives you is a lot different than anything else. It's a very unique experience. When you're sculpting something and it's as large or bigger than yourself. And I'm not used to sculpting things that are really huge, So to be able to do that and to scale a sculpture to be, jumbo sized or really small or, whatever, and add details and turn it as though there's no weight to it. There's no worry about using armatures and things. So in that sense, you can get a sort of a feeling from a sculpture that you can't get sculpting on the scale that we're doing here. It's really cool. So I highly recommend anybody that wants to get virtual reality for the sake of making art to either Like visit a friend that has an Oculus or a Vive and get in there and see what you think. You know, just try it out. Because there's a lot of ex-Disney animators that are into virtual reality, and they do it for drawing characters, and they do it for you can animate within virtual reality. There's programs you can animate in. So you animate by drawing stuff two-dimensionally, but you do it in a three-dimensional space. So you can have parts that are, you can essentially make a character in three-dimensional space and animate it to look like it's 2D. I don't know. It's just there's just a lot of things you can do with it. So let's see here now. I think that there we are. This is going to be pretty cool. So Ron likes pool, and Randy says, one time a friend gave me Dark Forces to play on PC. I tried it, sat down to play, looked up, and 4 months had passed. I remember that game. That was really fun. As crappy as the graphics were, it was a lot of fun to play that game. Ron says, I used to love video games. I just don't have that kind of free time anymore. Today you need an education to figure out how to even play the darn things. Yeah, they do make them complicated. That is for sure. Okay, so this, I think I'm gonna smooth this into this here like that. Sculpt it into one continuous flowing sort of shape. Like I said, I don't want this to have a lot of waves to it. There we go. That will work. So Janet says, what is better, Oculus or Sony? What is better? Well, the Oculus has a lot of cool art programs, so I like the Oculus. And a computer is going to run better than just on a cell phone or anything like that. So the hands-free stuff like that, you know, you have, like with the Oculus, you have controllers and stuff. So that the controllers are a big part of being able to control brushes and things in virtual reality. So if you want to get into art, that's what I would get. Get an Oculus. And they're always improving that stuff too. They're coming out with new versions that allow a lot more functionality and resolution and stuff. And what's cool about it is it's not all just useless. You can even sculpt in Oculus Medium and then 3D print stuff from your sculptures. You know, print your sculptures out, turn it into real physical objects. I do know that the company, they market it for 3D printing. Like they say, you can 3D print your stuff from Oculus and all that, but the thing that I've seen them create was like this monster, sort of like a half fly, half human sort of thing. It looks pretty awesome. But they did use ZBrush. They ended up using ZBrush to clean it up and everything. So what games do I want? What games? Well, I don't know. I think that the games I want haven't been invented yet. Most games, like, I mean, I used to like first-person shooters, but companies like Electronic Arts, they're just out for money. You know, they just want to like give you loot boxes and loot crates and all that stuff, and you got to pay for things. And it's like if you buy a $60 game, which is a lot of money, I don't think you should ever have to pay for more stuff. I just think that's wrong. It's like you can pay them and then beat everybody because you have some magical weapon that you spent $100 on. You know, like that's just, to me, it takes the fun out of it. I think that everything should be fair for everybody. If you're gonna play against anybody else in the game as a competition, like for example, Ron says he likes the game pool, right? So imagine if they had a pool stick that you could buy. You get like a loot crate and you buy it, and then now you can beat every other player out there. I mean, it just doesn't. It's just stupid. And I think a lot of people are mad at that. It's just, and then yeah. I mean, I like Star Wars, so the Star Wars universe is always cool. And I've got what is that called? Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront, I think it's called. And I played it for maybe a couple of months or 3 months. The problem is that the companies don't stop people from cheating. They don't have an anti-cheat system. Everybody cheats. Everybody buys loot boxes so they can beat everybody else. They probably cheat because they're like, well, the loot boxes are unfair. Cheating should be fair. So they kind of turn players against each other that way. So I don't really play a lot of those games anymore. I just think it's stupid. Really stupid. But if they had a game that was fun, like a Star Wars game in virtual reality where you fly like the Millennium Falcon or something like that, or I'd consider it, sure. Who wouldn't want to fly the Millennium Falcon? So Randy says, I've barely even seen any of the new games, much less ever touched a controller. Just watching them seems like too much work. And Janet says, I wait for Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay. Is that pretty awesome looking? I mean, is it... There are some games that have a really huge following. And I think for good reason. I think that they probably set those up to be fair to play those games, Alright, I might do a combination of grass here and dots. I'm going to kind of... get some grass texture. This. I think this will look pretty awesome, actually. Something like this. And then do our texturing down here like this. So, let me see here. Yeah. So, Randy's mentioning, I can't believe they would allow pay to cheat things in games. How ridiculous. Yep. And they don't call it cheating. They're called loot boxes. So the loot is, better weapons, fancier weapons, weapons that have more power. You don't have to work for them, like you don't have to level up or anything. So you don't have to earn it at all. It's just pay for it. And then destroy everybody in the game. And Ron says, I played Battlefront and didn't understand I need to play online, so it was boring. I couldn't handle controlling the top and bottom of the character too much for me. Yeah, requires a lot of hand-eye coordination. I always play games on the PC. My son plays on the Xbox, and I'm the same way. It takes a lot of getting used to, and I think you have to play it a lot to just become natural at using those controllers. I just don't spend enough time doing it, and I don't really like doing it anyway. So I stick to the PC games. Alright, so I think for this section of the set, I think we're going to call this done for tonight. It's going to add a little bit more texture towards the bottom. This is going to be covered up for the most part, but I think this looks pretty good. I think that's just enough texture because we're not super close zoomed in on these shots. So being that they're sort of far away, I don't want to make it too complicated, anything like that. Gonna add just a little bit more texture here so that these all look proper. Everything looks good there. Some deeper larger circles at the bottom. Okay, so I'll give you guys a close-up look. Just add a few more little lines here. There we go. So let's see what this looks like. So there's the texture we got going on. So when the camera sees it, when this is all together, I'm hoping that it'll look pretty good, hopefully. And then we got our grass. So we just need to extend this part of the green down towards the bottom next week. Might also add some more details, like, you know, little blotches of color like I did along this top row here, just to kind of blend everything, bring it all together. And I think that's it. All right, well, anyways, I do appreciate you guys stopping in. It's always fun talking about video games and stop motion projects and all that. And so if you guys want to also chime in on our 5-week challenges, hop on our site, and I'll make mention that during the live show that everybody seemed to like the robot challenge. So maybe what we'll do is just extend that for 5 more weeks and kind of start from scratch. So give lots of time for everybody. Other than that, I will see you guys all next week. See you later.